Welcome to Meno Musings, our monthly podcast where we invite specialists and professionals to join us and talk about topics that are related to the menopause. And this month, we're going to be talking about two hormones which aren't estrogen or progesterone, but they are hormones which change during our menopausal years, and we're going to be exploring what impact this has on our emotions, on our behaviors, and on our relationships. So I'm really excited about the conversation today, and I'm delighted to be joined by Adelle Martin. Adelle went through an early menopause at the age of 40 and had quite a rough time of it, actually, didn't you, Adelle? And
Yeah,
really almost derailed your business and finance career. But 12 years later, you are an accredited menopause coach, you are a personal trainer, and you teach women how to boost their well-being and build their careers through your unique menopause resilience system.
yes,
So welcome, Adelle. It is fantastic to have you on Meno Musings today.
No, thank you for having me. And I've been chatting for a while, and it's been a pleasure to get here and share my story and share perhaps a different side of menopause.
Yeah, you're right. It's been a while coming, but it's really great that we've made this happen today.
Yes.
So let's kick off then. The two hormones that we want to talk about today are oxytocin and vasopressin. And now I imagine that many people out there may not have heard of one or even both of these hormones. So I think a great place to start is just to tell everyone, what are these hormones? What is their function? What do they do?
Absolutely. So for me, oxytocin, and I call it the nice sister to the queen, and we must remember the queen is estrogen, but she does have a sister. And oxytocin, and what that is think of cuddly, fluffy, nurturing. And what that does, it gives that dopamine in helping others, because we have to remember, despite where we are, in our lives, we do have life cycles. So childbearing, we are put on this earth as women to bear children. So oxytocin and estrogen will work together. So oxytocin is very much that nurturing that will give us what we need to nurture and bring up children, and especially when we look at the roles of male and females. But what that also does, because our role is to bring out children, it will make us risky. So we're like, we won't do that because we can't risk our responsibility to having children or bringing our children up. So sometimes we may have a really low tolerance to risk. Do you know what, I don't want to do that. And that's that oxytocin. So it keeps us on the job we're supposed to do, basically, which is to nurture and have children.
Nurture and low risk.
Yes.
Protect.
So that role, because if we think about their life stages, the first one is all about childbearing, and that will start from when the first periods start. That role is to have children, and that's when we've got our normal cycles, and then you've got estrogen. But oxytocin will be high on the agenda because that's what our role is. Whether we choose to or not, that's what our body is designed to do. So that is oxytocin. Now, when we sort of start to move through the next stages, which is perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, then vasopressin, it's sort of the secret aggressor, and we have to be mindful of the word aggressor. And what that means is it's linked to testosterone. So it's got more male energies, and therefore your risk, you're like, I'm going to take more risks. And actually it makes you, do you know what, the word no, you learn the word no to things when that comes in. So basically you are moving into as you go through perimenopause and menopause, your role then, like me, I'm not here now to bring up children. So our role changes, and that hormone will make us a little bit more, no, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. Because women say to me, oh God, how will I ever let the children leave or do things? I went, Mother Nature, work with her, and that hormone will change, and then oxytocin will reduce. So those are the two hormones at play. The challenge we have is, as we fluctuate and our hormones decline, and then they fluctuate and go up and down, so do these two. And that that for me is what causes the challenges in relationships. That's another bit. But you need to understand the two hormones first. If they just, if one went down and one went up in a nice linear fashion, it would be okay.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Now,
like
that's
that.
interesting, isn't it? So, yeah, and
Yeah.
you do hear a lot of people talk as they transition through the menopause, don't you? That there is a sense of loss of this nurturing, that there's sort of, you know, declining, as you say, but then they start to feel more sort of assertive and confident and start to do things that perhaps they've always wanted to do, but not really wanted to risk it, I guess. It comes back to that risk point. And now they're like, wow, I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to go for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when people say like lack of confidence, I really dispute that with women going through it. And I say, no, it's not a lack of confidence. It's a change in confidence, because I was amazingly confident. And then I had a change in confidence. One day I'd be really confident. And then another day I wouldn't be confident. And I was like, but why is that? What's going on to get me to be confident? And then layering on top of that, one day I'd and I'm saying this from a good place. One day I'd really love my family, and the next day I couldn't stand being in the same room as them.
Yeah.
What's going on? And that was what got me into, there's got to be more going on than just estrogen and progesterone, because it's all around, this is about mood and mood swings. So you hear a lot about mood swings through menopause, and it's this mood swing is moving you between oxytocin and vasopressin. So the way I look at it is, one day you can wake up and be, I've got a really cool slide I use. One day you're the childbearing, you're the cuddle, you love your children. Then the next day you get up and you're like, I could just leave this lot and just walk out the house. And that is then the swing to the warrior, the vasopressin. So when children, so my family go, which are you today, mum? And I go, I don't know yet. I'll try and work it out. And that's because of when we get to the height of menopause and your hormones are fluctuating. So yes, we know estrogen and progesterone decline, but we also know there's a bit in the middle. And we know if it's aggravated by stress, it can be like a tidal wave. Now, it's not just those two hormones that do that. These two that drive your whole relationships and how you connect with the world, they're also bubbling underneath as well. So don't be surprised if sometimes you really love your family and the next day you want to leave them and then come back. And that's when, and that's the same. It didn't just happen with my family. I was running massive leadership teams and I loved my job. I'd go in one day and go, I don't want to do this. I'm thinking, I've got my dream job. I've got my dream boss. I've got my dream family. And I want to walk out of here. And that's when I realised, when I studied the neurohormones, what was going on. And that is when, for me, when I explain that to women, they go, oh my God, I get it. And then when you explain it to your family, that it's not me, it's my hormones, then that way it does change. And when I look at those two different, and we will come out the other side, oxytocin will drop and you will come out the other side. And I say to women, if we think about leadership and management, mother being the oxytocin, working with your family, and if you're a businesswoman working with clients, you're all about nurturing and management. When you move to more of vasopressin, you move to leadership, right? And that's because you're willing to take risks. So when you look at the data, there are more female business startups of women over 50. I'm not surprised, because yes, we know our hormones are playing into our strengths, and we just know by life cycle, children could be leaving home. Saying that though, I've got women still driven by their warrior, that they've even got children and still starting up their own businesses because they want the freedom of that. So it's not just about children leaving home. I've looked at the data. No, women over 50 are starting their own businesses, whether they're children or young and old, because they are like, I'm going to use my wisdom and whatever I'm doing, and I've now got the capability and the strength to lead. Where did that come from, Adelle? And I call that playing into your hormones and playing into where you are. The challenge happens is when you fight where you are on the cycle and not communicating with people. But it's only recently in the last 5 years where we know this stuff and we are communicating. And that's why I put the relationships as part of my butterfly and my resilience system, because you've got to share this stuff. But it's and women go, so it's really not me. I go, no, It's
Yeah.
not you, it's a process your hormones are going through. But this sort of element is not always widely shared and talked
Yeah.
about
I mean, I
around
really love
support for
that.
women.
I really love that idea of playing into where you are, you know, because it sounds like it's sort of a journey in itself, isn't it? So at the
Yeah.
start, you've got those hormones fluctuating, oxytocin, vasopressin. You might be feeling great one day, like you said, and another day, whether it's at the home or in the workplace, you know, you just feel completely different.
Yeah.
And then things start to stabilize a bit, oxytocin goes down, and then you just sort of come out that other side, and, you know, more ready to say no, more ready to take those risks, more ready to, like you say, start up, you know, your own
Yeah.
business or take on a new adventure.
Yeah,
You know, it's about
absolutely.
being in that moment where you are at that time and not trying
Mm.
to be somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, and that's, there's two things in there. The first one is communicate to people around you, because I got, Mum, you've changed. I was like, yes, I have. And you know, and it's laugh, because actually the menopause in my mum's day, my grandmother's day, was called the change. They got it so right, because you do change. It is a change, and it can be really scary for the people around you that have just seen you in this role. So it's important to communicate your needs and explain the process, that Mum hasn't just walked out of like I did, a big career, but I did explain to the why. So I think that's important, to explain to people why. And then also, you're absolutely right when I say play into it. So if you do get up in the morning and you feel more into oxytocin, which is like, I want to stay closer to home, there's a management issue, and I don't really feel that, you know, vibrant like I did yesterday, it's okay then to share that with clients or family, or shuffle your diary around. If there really is a meeting that you've got to do, but actually, if you know somebody, you could move that meeting. And, you know, if you don't feel confident, that it's okay, because sometimes when I was in, it's more flexible for me in my own business if I need to shuffle things. But when I went in the boardroom and I had to face into a meeting where I didn't feel that great, then I made sure I prepared even more than normal. So I had all my script and everything. And I just sort of thought, right, Adele, digging deep. I know that perhaps my warrior isn't where she needs to be today, but I've only got to be in that boardroom for an hour. I will deliver what I need to do, and then I will go back and just have some self-care and some time. What blindsided me and took me out in the boardroom is I didn't know this. I just kept fighting against the why aren't I strong? Where's my confidence done? And the more angry, so you raise your cortisol levels, the worse this fluctuation. So I was self-propelling to the point that I ended up having a breakdown in the boardroom, because I thought I would just keep calm and carry on. It makes it worse, because you're just adding to the fluctuation. So you're just swinging too far, where women just head down and go, no, it's okay to stop, and it's okay to do that one meeting and then go home and go, right, I just need to work through this. So for me, I think sometimes women fight through their feelings, and what I want to do is educate women where this swing can come from. And if you're feeling the swing, just step back. It's okay to step back.
It's that kind of okay to not feel okay, isn't it? And actually that
absolutely.
self-care piece, which I think we're so used to, probably comes back a bit to the oxytocin of giving our care to others. And actually now it's turn that around on yourself. And, you know, it's okay to be feeling the way you are. You don't have to be Wonder Woman in every single moment of your day and your life. And it's just about giving yourself a break. And
absolutely. And that's what I see with the women. So under my relationships, I do like me, we, and thee. And the me is all about you. And I always say, and I said this in my leadership role, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. And if you can't lead others, you can't lead enterprises. So it's me, we, and thee. And when you sit down and you share this with women, there's one thing women saying, I don't want children, versus I can't have children anymore. Okay. And there's this like, oh, I'm getting old. Oh God, what does this mean? So there's a real resonance of, oh my God, I'm going through perimenopause, I'm going through menopause, my body's changing, in some women's cases, beyond recognition. And then my mind is doing tricks on me. So not only do we have hot flushes and things our body's doing, and we might get a bit of weight gain, but the mind is also playing tricks. So you're facing into this. So that's the whole me, and then making sure there's the self-care. And under that me, explaining to women on their own what's going on with your hormones and the impact of that. Then we move on to we, which is the family and immediate friends and colleagues. and just sharing this. Actually, this, you know, you might think menopause is all hot flushes, but there's a lot going on around mood swings, around roles, my confidence, you know, my oxytocin, how I'm nurturing, but now I'm not, and explain that to family. When I sat and explained it to my family, they were like, "Oh my God, I just didn't think of men. I thought menopause is just hot flushes and mum being grumpy, not the why and how." And then obviously once you get that under control, and your nearest and dearest, because to be fair, sometimes when you explain it like I did to my family, when I started to get a bit like I'm going to be the warrior, Millie went to me, "Mum, you're being a bit rude." I was like, "Oh, it's the," she goes, "You got the warrior." And she pointed it out to me, because you have to remember, all of a sudden I've gone from a very consultative type of person to just want this done. And she's like, "Okay, Mum." And then when I'd go to oxytocin and perhaps withdrawn in myself, Millie would say to me, "Mum, do you want your trainers? Do you want to go for a walk? Are you okay? What's going on?" So the more you explain it to your family, sometimes they see it before you even feel it. And for me, it's having them as my wingmen. And even my team, when I'm laughing, even in my team, I was like, "I want this done, I want this done, I want this done." And they go, "Oh, the warrior Adelle, you're going into this meeting with this person, you're going to wind them up. Okay, ring it back in."
It's nice, that idea of the wing. I like the wingmen, you know, that's a really nice idea. And it's kind of like using the we, me, thee. That kind of as a framework for the conversation, and having some of that language in there, like the warrior, means that it's easier for, you know, your family or your team to kind of use that, isn't it, as a terminology to say, "Look, I'm seeing the warrior is a bit much here today," or "Tone back the warrior." Then I think that's a nice way for that communication piece, which, you know, is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And some days you do need that warrior, because you're going to come into negotiations that I'm having tough negotiations now, that I would have really struggled with before my menopause, because I was very dominant, progesterone dominant and oxytocin dominant. Don't get me wrong, I've still got that caring, coaching nature, but I like the person I am now. And that's it, because there's more of the tough negotiation. And I tell you why as well, because sometimes I think women, assertiveness and aggressiveness are two different things. A woman can be assertive and not be aggressive, and sometimes you see women being assertive and making points. "Oh, she's being aggressive." No, she's not. She's making a point, she's leading with data, she's having negotiations, and it's okay, and she's not aggressive, and she's not menopausal. Don't confuse that either. You know, what she's doing is leveraging her hormones like I do, and I'm having negotiations I would never have had the confidence to have done before my menopause.
Leveraging your hormones. That's really great phrase, isn't it? Leveraging your hormones. And actually, what's really nice about all this is, you know, you talk a lot about the struggles of going through perimenopause and menopause, and, you know, and it is a really tough time for a lot of people. But it's like, I can see as you talk that it's like you've actually reached this really amazing place where, you know, you're able to do all these things that previously just weren't really on your radar. You know. No,
they weren't. No, they weren't. And in the first part of my career, you know, we just did the right thing. You know, I love my career. And then, you know, when I got to 40 and some tough things happened, both inside and outside of work, and my hormones, and I ended up going through a very fast, aggressive menopause. You know, as if it had you know, all completely changed. And when women say, "Well, we're going to get back to the person," and I said, "Actually, I've leveled up from the person I was even before my menopause." You know, I feel like that person again, but with the confidence of leverage, like you said, of those hormones, and having conversations that I would never have had in my 20s and my 30s. So when you look, and I love studying leadership, and you look at the age of some very powerful women around the world and the type of conversations and the businesses they're running, it's because they are truly leveraging that hormones. But don't get me wrong, you know, we know that we have to look after our body. We have to, you know, as you know, the rest of my resilience is about food, move, and you have to put the basic foundations in. But once you do that, it's also around the mind and leveraging these hormones, and then having that relationships. And that's why I put it into more of a holistic system, because you know, it starts and finishes with you. You have to take ownership of this process, and it can take a little while to even, you know, want to get, and we can kick back and push back against it. But for me, I think the smoothest journey through it, even on tough days, is understanding the processes and leveraging it, because, you know, our lives are hinged around our relationships. You know, we are women that are leading families, we're leading ourselves, we're leading businesses, you know, charities. You know, all the women I talk to have so much on their plate. When these two hormones start to, you know, play and fluctuate, this is when the women's worlds can fall apart.
Yeah. So for those, and I'm sure there are many where this is really resonating, you know, all these, how they're thinking, how they're feeling, the movement of emotions. So it's about understanding the process, really important to just understand what's happening, having that knowledge, and then communication.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that is sort of useful for women to be thinking about and doing to sort of manage you know, these hormones and their levels?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, if you fix the gut, you fix the mind. So when I do work with women and they're saying, yes, I'm really struggling with some of my relationships, and perhaps oxytocin and vasopressin is really fluctuating, I always say, you know, it really, and I do nerd out on this quite a bit, it really does start with the food and your exercise. So for me, the food, some of the foods and things I was eating, and I've always been sporty, been relatively healthy and sporty, but even that wasn't working, you know. And when I went back and looked at my diet and what I was eating and when I was eating, I realized then, and when I talk to lots of other busy women, the first thing we do is skip meals and starve ourselves. Okay, so what I realized is, for me to keep all of the hormones, all the neurohormones flowing in my brain, is I had to eat on a regular basis. So even before I start with women and say, what are you eating? I go, when are you eating? And are you allowing an overnight fasting? Because when I fixed how often I ate, which is 3 to 4 hours, all of a sudden I didn't get so many mood swings, because my brain was being fed and my body was being fed. Because you have to remember, our whole body is going through a transition, you know, from head to toe. We're in estrogen receptors. So when we wake up in the morning, it's like teenager in reverse. You know, when you grow at aching pains, and as a teenager, I call it growing pains, and all of a sudden I'd shoot up by 2 inches. This is sort of the reverse of the process. So when you get up in the morning, if there was a scale of 1 to 10 of stress, you're already vibrating at +2, because your body is changing. Even your hormones are fluctuating. So therefore, you need to basically don't let your body second guess when you're going to feed it, move it and sleep it. So for me, it's having those foods. So if your body knows you're going to feed it every 3 to 4 hours, it won't have a hissy fit on you. It will be calm. You've got to keep your core body as calm while it's managing those hormones, because then you'll get up at +2, and if you skip breakfast and go, well, I won't eat till tonight, you go out, you do a school run, and somebody cuts you up, you're cross, so your cortisol levels are going up, your cortisol level goes up, the hormone swings, then the children might not get out of the car quick enough, then you catch somebody else, then you go in the office, somebody's not turned up. By the time you get to your evening meal, can you imagine what your stress levels will be? And no wonder your mood is swinging, no wonder you don't feel great to head into that boardroom. And that was the biggest mistake I made. So I say to women, eat within the 3 to 4 hour window. And also, don't be a woman who snacks every hour, because you're just putting too much stress in your digestive system, whether it's overloaded by snacking or left hours without any food, it stresses. So every 3 to 4 hours will keep your body and your mind functioning. Once I hit that, I actually felt really calm, and I felt like far more stable, because I wasn't starving myself. And I made that a difference. And then also just try to get a 12 to 13 hour overnight fasting, because once estrogen starts to decline from our gut, it slows the process down, but we cannot absorb any nutrients, anything for our muscles, our hair, our whole body, if our gut is in overdrive. So if you allow 12 to 13 hours overnight, you'll absorb everything from your food, and then you'll start off refreshed. That is an absolute game changer. And when I first meet women and they say, I'm having hot flushes at night, can you just give me a food diary? Not what you've eaten. Yes, I want what you're eating, but the time stamp.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
regular sort of, so that it knows what's happening. And then your gut knows when it's being fed, your brain's happy with that, and then you've got that 12 hours period
absolutely
of
of the food. Absolutely, because the mind gut loop is so intrinsically linked. So for me, once I focused on that, it just made a huge amount of difference. And I know by the women I work with and meet, they're not eating at all like they should be. So we skip meals because we're busy, and we grab something, and it's just what I did it. I spent most of the thing is, what you can get away with in your 30s, you can't get away with in your 40s. And when we go, why? I say because when you get to 40, you're clicking in the process. So that's what it is. It's not you, it's the fact that your body is now starting a process to bring you into menopause and beyond. So it isn't you, ladies. It really is that difference.
And I guess if you're stressed, you're also often not eating great food, are you? You're just, and that's probably not helping. And it's irregular. It comes back to that thing of it's not regular eating. It's,
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And if those stress levels are up and you've got your cortisol levels, then you naturally, people call it a sugar craving. It's not. It's a carbohydrate, which is an energy craving, because you then are tired, fatigued just by thinking and your body going through it. Then you naturally think it's a sugar craving. So you might grab something sweet, and then you create the crash and burn cycle. So you're absolutely not.
Don't want to go there.
No, you don't want to go there, but we all need it. So in my cupboard, if I'm going to go, if we all have days like that, then my food is a rice cake, and then I'll put either a chopped egg on top or a peanut butter, because it's you can't. I tried and it failed. You can't fight a carbohydrate craving because your body wants the energy. But if I'd put sweets, which was what happened to me, why my final thing in the boardroom, why I crashed, is because I ate 4 bags of wine gums, the family size, because I was so anxious, and I literally crashed and burned. I say to women, in my cupboard is my rice cakes, my peanut butter, chopped egg, and I'll have that, because then that way you're still hitting the carbohydrate, but the protein with that carbohydrate brings you down. So I say to women, the best way of describing it is if you jumped out of an aeroplane, there's rice cake with the peanut butter and the egg is the parachute. So you've got to come down, but you'll come down gracefully. If you choose a chocolate bar or a bag of sweets, you will jump out that aeroplane with no parachute, and you will hit the ground very hard. So I say to them, I don't ever, when it's, I walk around the block and I try, no, don't fight it. Just get a good quality carbohydrate with a bit of protein on, and you will come down gracefully.
That's amazing.
Otherwise, you just got this internal dialogue in your brain all the time. And that's what you've got to try and stop doing, because while you've got that internal dialogue, you imagine the oxytocin and vasopressin, they go in like this. And then your family go in and go,
back to the hormones.
Yeah, are you all right, Mum? Go, no, I'm not.
Yeah. This has been such an insightful and fascinating conversation, Adelle. What I'm just thinking to wrap us up today, with all the work that you do with women and menopausal women, what is one sort of take home message that you would leave people with?
I would say, please understand the process, what is going on with your hormones from the age of 40 through to menopause. Just go and find out. Just find out what is going on in your own body with your hormones, because that will be the biggest enabler. And when you know what is going on with your body, you can find your own solutions. But don't go and get curious, is what I'd say.
Get curious, raise your awareness of the hormones.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has been lovely to have you on Meno Musings. Thank you so much for joining us today, Adelle.
It's been a pleasure.
So if you would like to know more about what Adelle does and how she can help you with well-being, with career, with menopause, then please do check out Adelle's website, executivemidlife.coach, and I will include all the different ways that you can get hold of Adelle when I post this podcast. So please do check those out. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next month.